Hi everyone, I'm going to give folks a moment to tune in here. So I welcome everyone to this Facebook Live. Let me know when you come on. Maybe share where you're from as you join me. Welcome, welcome. Hello, I'm David Kessler. Glad you're tuning in. I'll give folks a second to find us here. Welcome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to welcome everyone to this special webcast we're doing here, this Facebook Live, where we're talking about special days. So thank you for joining me. I'm David Kessler. I know many of you, and you know many of me from my work. So I'm glad to see you and see some familiar people here. Many of you know me. I'm the author of 5 books on grief and loss. One with Louise Hay. Many of you know this book, You Can Heal Your Heart. The other book that I know many of you have read and gotten some help from is on Grief and Grieving, which I wrote with the amazing Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So I'm so glad you're tuning in today and joining us for this special edition. I'm thrilled to be doing this for Legacy.com. I've worked with them many years ago in their beginning with Legacy and Tribute, so I'm glad to be doing this again. You may know me also as the founder of Grieve.com that helps many people. And some of you may know I'm also a bereaved parent myself. So I unfortunately and fortunately understand this world as a grief specialist, but also as a bereaved person myself. So I'm excited to be doing this talk for Legacy. And Legacy is all about the wonderful tributes for people, and they now have grief groups, so I hope you'll check them out. What I'd like to do is just talk with you for a few minutes about special days that we all encounter, and then I'll take some questions at the end. So first of all, I'm thrilled. I know some of you also sent some questions in earlier from Facebook. If you could go grab that from my printer, one of you, that'd be great. And because I want to read some of the questions we already have. And then I'm going to take some of your questions live. So first of all, let's talk about those special days. Those special days can be the anniversaries of a death. We'll talk about those. Special days can be birthdays. Special days can be anniversaries that we may have. Mother's and Father's Day is also a special day. And birthdays. And there's many other days that people in grief encounter that we often don't even realize are days that are maybe going to be painful to us. So for instance, April 15th is coming up. Tax Day is coming here. And with our tax day, what you don't realize, and many people don't realize, is if you have a loved one who died last year, you're going to be filing their last taxes. And that's a hard thing to do. It's one of those finalities that we're doing someone else's final taxes. So special days can be all kind of days, and they hit us out of the blue many times. So I think about it as any day that was important in their life can now become important in their death. And so that's why we wanted to put this Facebook Live together and really, give some coping strategies and thoughts and ideas about how we can help each other. When I think about, first of all, the anniversary of a death, I call it more the thaniversary. Thano means death in Greek. And I think about, we want to celebrate an anniversary, but when I think about a thaniversary, it's more of a day we want to mark. The day they died is a day that will be forever seared in our consciousness. So we want to have awareness of that. Now, just like you may know, when a marriage happens, we have many different dates around the marriage. We have the day that We met. We have the day that I proposed, and hopefully you accepted. We have the day we were married, the honeymoon. So the same day we have a number of anniversaries like around a marriage, you also have multiple anniversaries around a death. And I think people who haven't experienced grief, they really don't know this. They don't realize that we know the day we got the call. Of course we know the day of our loved one dying, but we know the day we got the call or the day they were diagnosed, or we perhaps know, there's the day of the death, then there's the day of the funeral. So we have multiple days that are coming up in our year around the anniversary. And what people have reported to me, and I've experienced myself, is there's almost more anxiety in the days leading up to the death than there is the day of the actual death. It's the lead up that can be the issue. Now it's interesting, one of the first tips I want to give you around this is the people around us may be aware it's our anniversary and they don't know what to do. They don't know if they should mention it or if they shouldn't mention it. And one of the common things people will say is, they look like they're doing okay. I think they might have forgot. I remind people, we didn't forget. You haven't forgotten when your loved one dies. So I encourage other people to talk to us about it. To say, I know your loved one's anniversary is coming up. I know this is a challenging day. So I give them permission to speak about it. We might have to give people around us the permission to talk about it. I can remember it was the 35th anniversary of my mother's death. That was 10 years ago. And in the 35th anniversary of my mother's death, I said, in a hospital setting where I worked, to a lot of trained professionals, I said, wow, it's the 35th anniversary of my mother's death. I'm not sure what I'm going to do this weekend. And a few people said to me, wow, 35 years and you still remember? I always had the same response for them. I would say, oh, your parents are still alive. And they would go, yeah, how do you know that? How did you know that? And I go, because no one who's had a parent die would ever say that. And the people who don't get it, I don't get mad at them. I'm really glad that other people don't know what it's like to have had a child die or have had their parents die yet. And I know, unfortunately, that day will hit them someday. They are going to deal with loss. Maybe not the kind I've had or you've had, but we're all going to deal with loss. So I tell people it's okay to talk to us about it. And it's interesting, the people who are afraid to remember, sometimes they'll go, David, I took your advice and I said to my friend, I know the anniversary's coming up. And they cried. I made them cry. I said, no, you didn't make them cry. Their loved one dying is what's making them cry. You just became a safe place for them to cry, safe person for them to cry with. So some tips of these anniversaries, besides letting people know, is communicate about it. Commemorate. How do we want to mark the day that our loved one died? I'm a big fan, for me, and everyone makes these decisions, I lean into the loss. I light a candle for them. I may go to their grave if it's possible. I may try to listen to some of their favorite music. I may cook a recipe or a food they liked or go to dinner at a place they loved. I like to do something in their honor. That's something I enjoy doing. People post online. That's a way of recognizing their anniversary. Now, if you're someone who's like, it's a hard day, I just want to keep busy, that's really your decision, and that's completely valid for you to do. Another challenging day are birthdays. People will talk about, today was my loved one's birthday. Now, sometimes people will go back and forth and say, a birthday only occurs when you're alive. This is really up to everyone to decide for themselves. You can be someone who goes out and celebrates your loved one's birthday or recognizes it with a candle, a wish, whatever you may do. And if you believe birthdays are over, that's, every person in grief has to decide for themselves. So you got to do what feels right for you. The other thing I say around these special days is what the outside world thinks of you, whether they think you should mark it or shouldn't mark it. I always say what other people think of your grief is really none of your business. They're going to have their own grief someday. This is your grief, and this is your grief to honor. And I think about these horrific days, these special days that mark days when our loved ones are no longer here. They're these deep holes in our life. And in time, they're so painful in the first years. And in time, I believe those deep holes, I imagine we fill them with concrete, except the concrete is concrete love. And that concrete is what we rebuild a new foundation of, a foundation that honors our loved one. So I want to take some time now to take questions. So let me read some questions that come in while you folks are maybe posting some live questions that we can talk about here. Charlene wrote in and she says, what can I say to people who have lost children on their anniversaries? It's different from other losses. I can only imagine how bad. Charlene, first of all, I love that you're asking about how you can be there for others. And I, for one, am glad you can't imagine the pain of a child dying. I think you just acknowledge it. You say, I know the anniversary of your child is coming up, and I want you to know I've really been thinking about you, and I've really been thinking about your child, and you're not alone. I'm here with you. I think the gift of letting them know we're not alone is really the best thing we can do for people. Susan has a question. Perhaps he could address creating a new normal, new traditions that don't trigger the empty chair syndrome. This is when it feels like they're so absent. It took us a long time to sort this out, and we still could use some advice on reconstructing our lives while honoring our beloved lost children. Really good question. I think life continues to change. I think history continues to move forward. I think in the beginning, we do want to have that empty chair. We want to recognize and witness the grief and witness the pain of them being lost. And then the world begins to change. And I think we end up changing things. I know for me, on my patio area outside, I had some old furnishings. And it was my son's last birthday when he was alive that we had out there. And in time past, the patio furnishings were becoming ragged looking, and it was time to replace them. And I thought to myself, I don't want to replace these. I mean, this is where he sat. This is what he did. And then I thought to myself, ragged furniture does not honor my loved one. You know, my son would like us to have new nice patio furniture, and I got it in his honor, and I still remember that as a special place. But it's okay to allow things to change. You're not going to forget your loved one. I think we take all that they are to those new places, to the new dining room table. Even if there's not a chair for them, we continue to evolve. All right, Christine says, David, my husband died 19 months ago. I always feel nervous and anxious about celebrating his birthday and our wedding anniversary. I remember him on those days, but I don't really celebrate. Are those days I'm supposed to stop celebrating? I think you have to try different things and figure out what's right for you. You can certainly still celebrate them if you want. If that doesn't feel right, just mark them. Maybe it's a candle. Maybe it's thanking him for that marriage that you had for those years. Maybe it's just saying, I honor you on your birthday. So I believe you have to experiment and really figure out what's right for you. Do we have any live questions that have come in?
Yes. Melanie would like to know.
Melanie would like to know, yes.
A lot of their members have had multiple losses.
A lot of their members have had multiple losses, okay.
How do you grieve multiple losses?
Oh, great question. How do you grieve multiple losses? First of all, I think our first clue is in how that's said. We actually can't grieve multiple losses. We can only grieve individual people. So I really do believe you have to separate out the griefs. You have to take a night or a day once a week for each person and honor them. And it doesn't have to be a ceremony. I mean, sometimes, I have a loved one who loved bingo. I go to a bingo game once in a while in her honor. If I'm somewhere, there's something about her, I'm like, oh, that's a dish she used to love. I'm going to order that on the menu in her honor. So really think of individualizing when you have multiple deaths. I'm going to do this in their honor and Bill's honor, and this is in Sue's honor at different times. Other questions?
Patty's mom died in June.
Patty's mom died in June.
And tears still fall uncontrollably.
And tears still fall uncontrollably.
She wants to know if this is a sign of weakness.
Oh my gosh, such a good question. Is tears falling uncontrollably a sign of weakness? First of all, it was her mom.
It was her mom.
If your mom died in June, that's really the day before yesterday. I mean, that was really just not long ago. So, of course, you're going to still have tears. That's very normal. And we talk about these as grief bursts. They are bursts of grief. And one of the things I challenge people to think about is it a grief burst or is it a love burst? When someone's alive, we have a burst of love for them. I think we still have them when someone dies. When someone dies, we don't stop loving our loved ones, and they don't stop loving us. So I think it's normal, and it is absolutely not a sign of weakness. Those tears are a reflection of your love. That's what they are. They're a reflection of your love. Others?
Sunshine talks about how she feels like she died when her mother died.
Sunshine feels like she died when her mother died. I would begin asking yourself, I might just start, if you were talking to me, I might, and you are, so I will. I might start with, what do you think your mother would think about that? Would your mother, who probably gave great sacrifices in her life for you to live, want to be looking down for wherever she is and go, wow, my death really paralyzed my daughter? I don't think she would. I think your mother, and I don't know her, but I'm hoping and I'm guessing, I think your mother would want you to have a life that really honors her. And of course, we have to fully grieve. You need to fully take the time to grieve, and we will grieve forever. But in time, we have to begin shifting from the pain, and that happens naturally when we feel the pain fully, to remembering them with love and living a life that honors them. So I would really think about, in time, shifting that thought to this day that I have today is in honor of my mother. This life that I continue with is in honor of my mother. Just my perspective on it. Is there another one?
So
this will probably be our last one here.
Mary's son died.
Mary's son died.
And to her son's children and Mary's daughter's children want to do something on his birthday.
All right, so the other family members want to do something on his birthday, okay.
And Mary did a party. And
Mary did a party, okay.
On the first birthday, but it was very upsetting for them.
It was very upsetting.
And so she hasn't dared try to do it again.
Okay.
And so she's left to celebrate it alone.
So, Mary, I think, part of the grief that we have to understand is, of course that first one's going to be painful. There might be a few that are very painful. It takes a long time for us to fully feel the pain and shift to loving and feeling just love. I mean, I think that's the goal of grief work, to feel the pain fully and in time remember them with more love than pain. So it is going to be painful. And, Mary, you decide how you mark the birthday. Whether your loved ones participate, that's an invitation. I'm going to go to dinner, or I'm going to cook a dinner in honor of my child that died. I'd love for you to come. And if they don't come, then you honor them. That's what it's for. It's for you to honor your loved one. All right, we are about out of time. I hope we get to do this again. I really want to thank Legacy.com for having me here. I hope you'll check out their groups. Whether you're watching this now or watching this later, we weren't meant to be islands of grief. So I love that we're connecting here, and I do believe we heal as a tribe. Thanks again for being with us today. I'm David Kessler. On behalf of everyone at Legacy.com and my site Grieve.com, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate being with you.